Okay, it's 2 o'clock. It's Monday the 19th of October. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting of the Vale Glamorgan. First item on the agenda is an apologies for absence, and I see that there are none. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting. I wondered if anybody could give me agree to the.
I'll move the minutes, Leader.
And formally second.
That was my computer going ping. Okay, I'm sorry for that. Before I start, I'd like to say a couple of words because probably, as everybody knows, the First Minister has made some announcement today in relation to COVID-19. The First Minister today announced that Wales will enter a fire break or a circuit breaker, for want of a better word, which is a lockdown from this Friday at 6 p.m. until the 9th of November in response to the continued rise in coronavirus cases across Wales. I'm grateful that the Welsh Government has again sought the views of council leaders on introducing these restrictions. We've had lots of meetings between ourselves and I think we could only come to this decision. From Friday, these national measures will replace the current local restrictions and residents across Wales will be advised to stay at home once again. The message is very clear: stay at home. The restriction means all hospitality, non-essential retail and beauty businesses will be closed for this period. Slight change to normal: mixing between households indoors and outdoors will not be allowed, except for those living alone or single parents living alone who may join one other household. In other words, create a bubble, but only with that particular extra household. As we saw earlier in the year, people will be able to leave home to work if it's impossible to do so from home. But the message is, if you can't work from home, please do so. You can also leave home for essential supplies and to take exercise. Whilst the lockdown measures in the Vale Glamorgan have been effective in slowing the rate of infection, I support the introduction of a short period of further restrictions. By doing so, we can all help to protect the NHS, and if we all play our part and take the matter seriously, and it is a serious matter to take into consideration, which we have to do, then we can help slow down the spread of the virus in our communities. Most important, I am grateful to the residents of the Vale Glamorgan for what they've done so far, but clearly there's a lot more to do in order to slow down the virus. I'd also like to express my sincere thanks to everyone for adhering to the local lockdown restrictions for the past 3 weeks. I know this is not easy, but once again, your efforts have made a real difference. So finally, I'm appealing to everyone again in the Vale Glamorgan to continue to work together in the next few weeks during this special lockdown so that we can further arrest the spread of coronavirus across Wales. I will make a further statement later in the day, but for now, I think that will suffice. We're into a different position, but I think one that we have to take very, very seriously. Okay, thank you for that. To start the Cabinet meeting proper, the first item on the agenda is a report from myself. The only one I have today is the use of the Managing Director's emergency powers. And basically, we've been asked to note the following use of the Managing Director's emergency powers, which are contained within the report. And it's one that is brought to us since the last report of the 25th of February 2020, and the cessation of the fortnightly Managing Director's emergency powers due to the coronavirus pandemic on the 12th of August 2020. They are all listed there, but I would like to highlight one or two, but in no particular order. One was the submission of a green infrastructure grant application. The Welsh Government opened a very short window for the application, so we took advantage of that. There was also award of the well tag 2 and 3 for appraisal of the docks transport interchange in Barry, which we've been trying to pursue with gusto. There's another one in terms of a replacement of the council's enterprise resource planning system, which we call the ERP, which is basically our computer system. So we felt we had to take some action on that. Then the other, which I'd like to highlight, is the temporary closure of the public path at Atlantic College. Clearly, that's something out of the ordinary, but we decided we would do that because of the fact that there were many foreign students coming in, and we wanted to ensure the safety of not only those, but other members within the residents of the Vale of Glamorgan. I'm also pleased to note that the council has been awarded £120,000 in relation to Penarth Library. And that we've also had a supported living contract within the confines of this report. I talked about WellTag stage reports, and there's one of WellTag stage 3 appraisal of the Cogan station, which is something we've been pursuing through Metro. And finally, I would talk about the Cardiff and Vale coronavirus prevention and response plan, which I think has been quite important. And if you have a look on page 7 of the report, the plan contains reference to the 6 key principles required for the effective test, trace, protect strategy, which is important, I think. I don't wish to highlight any others, but I would like to come back, if I could, to the recommendations. And basically, a very simple recommendation is that we note the Managing Director's emergency powers taken to date as contained within the report. I don't know if anybody else wants to make any comment in relation to that particular report. Fairly straightforward, but there's some really, really important issues have been covered in it. We all agree?
Yep, happy to second.
Good, thank you very much. The next item is a report from the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Education and Regeneration. It's a really, really good report in relation to the update on the community benefits and sustainability outcomes of Band B of the 21st Century Schools programme. So Liz, over to you. That's a mouthful.
It is, Leader, yes. I'm absolutely delighted to bring this report here today, and I have to apologise in advance as it is quite a long report with even the executive summary nearly 2 pages. However, as you said, there is a huge amount to cover. So for those that are a little bit short of time, if they read the executive summary, there's a really useful presentation at the end of the report, which gives most of the main points. But as you said, it provides an update on the high-level targets and examples of community benefits that have been delivered by a 21st Century School team and its and the appointed contractors, and they're Bouygues, ISG and Morgan Sindall, and consultants ACOM. And that's both for the Barry Secondary Learning Communities scheme and also the Western Vale Primary scheme, which is about to start. So just in about the last 18 months, January 2019 to September 2020, the projects have delivered, and this is bearing in mind that there's also been a pandemic in the middle of this, over 5,000 person weeks of new entrant jobs with 58 new full-time jobs, 3,000 person weeks of new entrant training, including 26 apprenticeships and 30 work experience placements, nearly 400 hours of school STEM engagements, a sort of science technology type engagements, which have reached 2,800 pupils, 4 events to do with supply chain, an average of 99% of construction waste avoiding landfill, and about an average of 80% of construction spend being within Wales. And it should be noted 76% of subcontractors are based in Wales, and 50% are actually coming from the local postcode. So that's delivering local economic benefit. The contractors are working closely with the council's Communities for Work programme and have provided a number of placements. We've had 2 opportunities for career changes where there are women that are actually taking on construction roles, and one in particular has moved from one contractor to another to gain skills in groundworks and driving big, huge JCBs and that sort of thing. There have been work experience placements. The contractors have worked with local charities on things like Christmas hampers and donations to food bank. The contractors have worked in partnership with Job Centre Plus and Apprentice to provide opportunities for people to start apprenticeships and new jobs. They've worked with schools on assemblies and things. They have worked with local subcontractors to upskill them so that they can participate in contracts. And there'll be more of that with our new Foundation Economy programme, which I'll update you on a future occasion. The catering at the 3 sites has been provided by a social business developed by Ysgol Derry, our special school, who've got Box Boyd, which is actually a sort of catering facility for them and providing work experience to the young people there. A number of community initiatives. More recently, the contractors with their expertise have supported schools in developing expertise and managing COVID, because they've kept working throughout the pandemic and they've developed a lot of expertise, and they've developed an app to support schools. The whole programme is very sustainability oriented, and so all the schools are at BREEAM Excellent. They've got the energy efficient buildings, and they provide enhanced habitats for wildlife. There are competitions for young people, and we're going to have an experimental green wall, which is on one of our hoardings, and pupils get involved in landscaping, tree planting and allotments. The 21st Century School programme monitors a range of sustainability outcomes, including education achievement, energy construction and community use of the facilities, which is exactly what we want those buildings to be. And we're now working with contractors and with the 21st Century School team to look at how we can decarbonise our new school buildings with consideration to the whole of the life cycle of these buildings. So in future projects, we're looking to achieve net zero carbon in future projects. To further embed sustainability and wellbeing, the Council's developed a directory in collaboration with Constructing Excellence in Wales. And we've been working with the Office of the Future Generations Commissioner to help integrate the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act into the design and delivery process. And I was very pleased to see a tweet from the Commissioner herself congratulating the team on their superb work more recently. As I said, the report is massive, but it's well worth reading. But I'll leave it there for today and move to the recommendations and the reason why we brought this here today.
And before you take the recommendations, Liz, I'm terribly sorry, I forgot in my haste to ask if there's any declarations of interest. I don't think there are any, but just for the record, before you move your recommendations, just in case anybody does anybody have any? None.
No declarations.
My apologies. You carry on, Liz. Sorry.
That's all right. I'll get back on track. So the recommendations are that Cabinet note the progress towards community benefits targets made by the 21st Century Schools team and the appointed contractors and consultants of the Barry Secondary Learning Communities and Western Vale Primary Scheme set out in the report. Felt it was important that we'd heard about what was happening. That Cabinet note the sustainability measures already put in place within the 21st Century Schools programme and progress towards further measures to be implemented in future schemes, because this is obviously very relevant to our declaration of climate emergency within the Council and what we should be doing. 3, that Cabinet refer the report to the Learning and Culture Scrutiny Committee for consideration with regards to delivery of community benefits for existing and future 21st Century Schools schemes. It's also, I think, very relevant to everybody in terms of how we take the learning through to other areas of our work, and that will come through in the Foundation Economy work. And that Cabinet write to each of the contractors, and I also think the 21st Century Schools team themselves, thanking them for their work and efforts in contributing to this incredibly successful scheme. So I therefore move.
Thank you, Liz. It's incredible achievement, to be fair. So I'm very, very happy to second it. what they've achieved is beyond all dreams. So I don't know if anybody else got any comments. If not, is that approved then? Yes. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a report for the Cabinet Member of Housing and Building Services, Local Housing Market Assessment for 2019. Margaret, I think are you there, Margaret? Is Margaret there? She was?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. This is something we have to do every 2 years. And as you see, the executive summary, it's Section 8 of the Housing Act 1985 requires local authorities to undertake a review of their local housing market assessment every 2 years. As you see, there is things that we definitely have to do. I mean, the one thing that stands out to me is the result of the local market assessment shows a net need for addition 890 units of affordable housing. We desperately need homes and we have to get this right. On page 6 to 11, it'll show you that how we need these houses, and the general needs show the greatest need is in Barry, Penarth and Landock. And then if you go into agenda, into the appendix 22 and 23 pages, shows you where in the wards that we need these properties. So I'm happy to put the recommendations towards the Cabinet that the local housing market assessment 2019 attached at appendix A to this report is accepted, and the policy to be noted subject to any comments from the Homes and Safe Community Scrutiny Committee, that the Housing Market Assessment 2019 be referred to the Homes and Safety Committee for their considerations. And there's the reasons for the recommendations, so I move this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. It's astounding the amount of housing required, and you know, you talk about additional 890 units of affordable housing each year. Yeah,
for 5 years. Yes.
For 5 years, it's remarkable, and the fact that the report brings out the details of where they're required to. So it's an excellent report. It'll go to scrutiny. If they've got any comments, they can come back to us, but I can't see how they're going to have any other than congratulations of the report itself, and the noting of how much is required. So I will update it formally second. Has anybody got any comments in relation to this? I don't know if anybody has. I don't know if any officer wants to. It's up to them. If not, we'll move on to the next item. So we all agree? Yes?
Yeah.
Thank you. The next item is from the Cabinet Member for Legal, Regulatory and Planning Services, Eddie. First one is the Vale Glamorgan Local Development Plan 2011 to 2026. And this is the annual monitoring report for 2020. So over to you, Eddie, please.
Thank you, Leader. Okay, you've got the report before you, and you can see the executive summary. This report relates to the second local development plan annual monitoring report. It assesses the performance of the policies in achieving the integrated plan objectives, which incorporate sustainable development and strategic environmental assessment having regard to the monitoring framework set out in the LDP. As you're aware, the LDP was agreed by the inspector as part of the LDP examination and consequently was adopted by the Council on 28th of June 2017. The format of the annual monitoring report follows the suggested format set out in the latest development plans manual. It includes both core and local monitoring indicators, and a traffic light rating system is used as a visual aid to monitor the effectiveness of the plan's policies and to provide a quick overview of policy performance. The report sets out the key policy achievements to date and confirms that the majority of relevant monitoring targets have been met. It highlights the indicators where further research, investigation is required, and notes that the COVID-19 has delayed progression of some supplementary planning guidance and also member training in relation to policy MD1 as recommended in the first annual monitoring report. Overall, the annual monitoring report shows that good progress has been made in implementing the majority of plans policies, and that the LDP strategy remains sound. Therefore, it is recommended that the second annual monitoring report is submitted to the Welsh Government and published on the Council's website in accordance with LDP Regulation 37. In addition, it recommends that the Council commences a review of the LDP before 28th of June 2021, in line with LDP Regulation 41. Let me just go through some of the background of the report. Okay, if you look at 1.1, the Council report adopted. The LDP, as I said, was adopted 28th of June 2017. Paragraph 1.2 talks about the requirements of a monitoring report. My apologies, I've just jumped on the screen. Right, okay, let me just get back to it. There we go. Right. Paragraph 1.2 talks about the White Young Green Group. They've prepared a new development brief in conjunction with the Welsh Government. And I suppose what I'm meant to say actually in 1.1 was that the Council were going to put in supplementary planning guidance and development briefs following the adoption of the local development plan. However, the Welsh Government recognised that the Cardiff Airport and St Athan enterprise zones were strategic developments in their own right, and therefore there was going to be separate plans for these. So going back to
Eddie, you've jumped onto the wrong report.
You've jumped onto the
wrong. Right.
You've jumped the wrong report. I think what's happened is you've gone to the wrong report on your screen.
Yeah, that's great. I do apologise. I'm just wondering why that is, but there we are. That's all right. Okay, let me just scroll down again. Right. Sorry, it's just the scrolling down on the paperwork here. Okay, yes, I can see that. Right, okay. Thank you for that. I'm glad you didn't wait till I got to the end anyway. Okay, as you're aware, the LDP is the Council's principal land use planning document, and 1.2 is Section 76 sets the regulation that we're required to amend. Well, requires planning authorities to monitor the LDP. 1.3 covers the actual shows that the annual monitoring report covers 1st of April to 31st of March. And it's normally submitted by 31st of October each year. And in fact, this report is the second annual monitoring report, which takes place from 1st of April 2019 to 31st of March 2020. Okay, paragraph 1.4 goes through the criteria that the annual monitoring report is based on, and 1.5 is the format of the annual monitoring report, and covers all the matters set out in the Development Plans Manual, March 2020. Okay, scrolling down again. Okay, 1.6 talks about the broad structure of the annual monitoring report, and it should remain the same each year. So this enables us to be able to provide some analysis, and successive reports build on each other from preceding results. 1.7. You'll note that some assessments, let's see, there are many aspects of the LDP and the monitoring frameworks may not be capable of assessment until the patterns emerge. You can understand that it takes time for some developments to happen, so some of these criteria may not already be covered. Nevertheless, the annual monitoring report provides a snapshot and helps us to identify trends that are coming along. Okay, 1.8. The annual monitoring report has been prepared during the COVID-19 pandemic. So as you can imagine, there are some delays to it. Nevertheless, the Council isn't currently reviewing the LDP and is still collecting the relevant monitoring data. So it's prepared this annual monitoring report on that basis, because it intends to submit it to the Welsh Government by 31st October, subject to the Environmental Scrutiny Committee. Okay, I just need to say a little bit more. The Minister for Housing and Local Government doesn't require the annual monitoring report, but nevertheless it's something we've done to find use for. Okay, right, just nip to 2.2.
So the items under 2 obviously list the major considerations within the scheme itself and within the report, because it's very complicated, isn't it? It's very comprehensive.
It is. Well, I just want to cover some quick things.
Okay.
There is a change in the housing delivery monitoring, which recently happened. That's but thankfully the Welsh Government recognised that our LDP was done prior to the publication of new guidance, so therefore we can continue monitoring the framework as we do now, but recognising that we will continue to use our average annual requirement methods as we've got at the moment, but look to see what we're going to do for the future. 2.3 talks about the traffic light system. It's used as a visual aid in monitoring the effectiveness of the plan, the monitoring report, sorry. And in 2.4 you can see the overview of the LDP objectives. I'll go through in detail there in the report. And let me see. Okay, it is important to recognise this is the second annual monitoring report, and it shows that there's good progress being made implementing most of the plan's policies, and that the LDP strategy remains sound. There's no need to undertake a review of the LDP at this time, and that the annual monitoring report is submitted to the Welsh Government as by 31st October 2020. However, because of the delays in COVID, it's been accepted that we can push it in a little bit later. So 2.6, this is quite important. We're recognising that it needs to go to the Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee. So their next meeting is 17th November. So therefore, to give them a chance to comment on it, and yes, they may end up looking at those comments as part of the Cabinet. So we'll submit on the 30th of November 2020. So going back up to the recommendations, if you just give me a moment. Right. Okay.
So I think we need to make them clear, because there are 6 important ones, aren't there, in the recommendations. Have you got back to it?
I've got to the recommendations now. Okay. So basically, one says we consider and endorse the second annual monitoring report, and subject to the recommendations by the Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee for submission to the Welsh Government and for publication on the Council website. And 2, that the Council commences a review of the LDP. I've missed a paragraph that was on there that was suggesting that it talks about the LDP. It will need to be reviewed before, the commence of it starting before 28th of June 2020. So that's something that we need to sort of agree on. And that the LDP annual monitoring report is referred to the Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee for its consideration. And if scrutiny make no comments, then these recommendations stand unaltered. 4, that the outstanding supplementary guidance is progressed in accordance with the Council's improved procedures, and that member training is undertaken in relation to policy MD1 and development outside settlements. And lastly, the delegated authority be granted to the head of regeneration and planning in consultation with the cabinet member for legal, regulatory and plan services to make typographical or minor changes as necessary prior to publication. So I move.
Okay. In recommendation 2, so the Council will commence a review of the LDP before the 28th of June 2021. I'm not sure if you said 20, but if it is 2021 in line with the LDP regulation 41. So that's fair. Okay. As I said, there's in terms of the key issues for consideration, there are many. The report is very comprehensive as usual, which wouldn't be expecting anything else. It's going to scrutiny court ENR, and if they have any comments, they'll come back to us. If not, this will be sent off to Welsh Government. So, and the recommendations 1 to 6 are before you. Does everybody agree? The recommendations, please.
Yeah.
Are there any absentees? No.
No.
Thank you very much. In our case, we'll move on to the next issue, which is, in fact, the Vale Glamorgan Local Development Plan 2011-2020, which is Brotathan, a Porth draft development brief for public consultations. I think that's the one you may have drifted into earlier on.
I may have
Sorry,
done it.
Eddie, yes, please.
I was so keen to get through it. Never mind. Right, here we go. So, this, as you say, is the report for new development brief, which is prepared by consultants White Young Green Group in conjunction with the Council for the Welsh Government. The draft development brief provides guidance and planning advice in relation to new development proposals at the gateway site known as Porth at the Brotathan Business Park. Brotathan is identified as a strategic opportunity area in Wales Spatial Plan 2008 update and is one of 3 key areas in the Welsh Government's Cardiff Airport and Brotathan Enterprise Zone. The main purpose of the draft development brief is to establish a clear set of design principles that will be applied to achieve the Welsh Government's vision for the site, provide the starting point for dialogue between developers, the design teams and the council before the submission of any planning applications, and play an important role in assessing developers' proposals before and after the submission of a planning application. The report seeks Cabinet's endorsement of the draft development brief for public consultation purposes. All comments received and any proposed amendments to the draft development brief will be reported back to the Cabinet for consideration prior to formally adopting it for development management purposes in due course. Okay, scrolling down. Okay. Right. Okay. If you look through the background, it's as you're aware, this is where I jumped in with the other stuff before, wasn't it? So there are 2 enterprise zones or strategic areas to be looked at: Cardiff Airport and the St Ethan Enterprise Zone Strategic Development Framework. And the White Young Green Group has prepared a new development brief in conjunction with the Council for the Welsh Government, which is attached to Appendix 1. Okay, we move down to 2.3. You'll notice that the Porth is a specific part of the Brotathan, and plans are in the document. Okay, it's a major development for the area, and it's hopefully, well, it will go out to consultation, 6-week consultation, and as I said, report it back to Cabinet. Okay, let's just go to the recommendations then. Okay, the recommendation: the Cabinet approved the draft development brief attached to this report for public consultation purposes, that the report and development brief is referred to the Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee for its consideration as part of the consultation process, that a further report is presented to Cabinet following the public consultation to present the findings of the public consultation exercise and consider any changes to the draft development brief prior to the formal adoption of the document for development management purposes. I so move, Leader.
Okay, that's fair enough. And again, it goes to ENR and Scrutiny Committee, but as part of this time as part of the consultation process, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of people who will make some comments in relation to it. But the recommendations are before you, 1 to 3. Everybody agree?
Yeah. Can I formally second, Leader?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. The next item is item 9, which is the Safer Vale Partnership Strategy 2020 to 2023. And again, Eddie, I think this is yours.
Great, thank you, Leader. The Safer Vale Partnership is made up of 5 statutory partners: police, local authority, health, probation, and fire and rescue service. We have the statutory responsibility for responding to and reducing crime and disorder in the Vale of Glamorgan. The partnership is required to produce a strategic assessment each year to guide future work. The partnership agreed that the 2018-19 strategic assessment should shape the development of a 3-year strategy and action plan, which sets out the steps required to deliver positive outcomes for those affected by crime and disorder in the Vale of Glamorgan. The finalised Safer Vale Partnership Strategy and corresponding action plan will cover the next 3-year period, 2020 to 2023, but will be a working document which will be kept under constant review. It will be delivered using partners' existing resources and will seek to ensure there is an effective response to crime and disorder in Vale of Glamorgan. The strategy, created in consultation with residents and partners and based on evidence gathered from the strategic assessment, details the 4 priorities for the Safer Vale Partnership. These are: prevent and reduce crime and disorder. The partnership will work to prevent and reduce crime and antisocial behaviour to keep people who live, work and visit the Vale safe and free from the fear of crime. Engage. The partnership will improve the way it connects with, involves and informs the community to increase awareness and the feeling of belonging and positive community cohesion in the Vale. Safeguard. The partnership will work to safeguard the most vulnerable in the community and work together. The partnership is committed to strengthening partnership working to improve efficiencies and problem solving. And in that, as part of the development of the strategy, the Safer Vale Strategic Group carried out a review of the current structure of the partnership. The review included discussions with key staff involved in delivering the outcomes agreed within the strategy. It was agreed that the Safer Vale Strategic Group would result in a smaller multi-agency group which meets less frequency and would be responsible for strategic decision-making, governance and oversight of a newly created Safer Vale Operational Group. This multi-agency operational group is responsible for delivering and monitoring the actions from the action plan and reports directly to the Safer Vale Partnership Strategic Group. Okay, going to the report then. The Safer Vale Partnership was formed in 1999, so there's been some time there. So it's evolved quite considerably over the years. There was a mixture on the current partnership. We found that there was a current mixture of both strategic and operational representation. And the partnership meetings involved information sharing, discussions on developments within the field of crime and disorder, and updates on the activities of community safety within the team. Paragraph 1.3 goes into, there was a common misconception that the Safer Vale Partnership was synonymous with the community safety team within the local authority. So the new strategy was seen as an opportunity to address this issue and clearly detail the purpose, membership and the scope of the partnership. Okay, and 5, the strategic assessment is which provided the information to guide the strategy, was developed using crime and disorder data and trend analysis from each partners and local knowledge. And this followed, this produced the draft Safer Vale Partnership Strategy and a formal 4-week consultation period, which ended in 10th of January 2020. I must admit, when I first read the report, I was concerned about the timing, particularly as we moved on some considerable time. Nevertheless, as a result of COVID in particular, the partners have come closer together, and it's been a much effective group. And the operational group, in fact, have already met and already see signs of that being able to work at a better pace. On Appendix 2, you'll see the action plan. That's as one of the which contains specific actions that will be taken by all the partners, and then the actual recognition that the actual community strategy document is quite it's difficult for the public to fully understand. So I'm not saying that they can't understand it. It's just that it's quite complex, and therefore it needed an easier way to communicate. So they've produced a public-facing Safer Vale strategy in Appendix 3. And this came about following feedback from the community consultation period, which highlighted the need for a shorter document, which was easy to read. At the moment, the strategy and action plan have been formally signed off by the South Wales Police, Fire and Rescue Service, Probation and Health. So therefore, I'll move to the recommendations. Yes. Before I go to the recommendations, I would also like to add that as a result of COVID, it's been noticeable. The partners, as I said, have been working closer together because there's been an increase in antisocial behaviour in crime as a result. Nevertheless, it's the response by the the partners has been much quicker, and hopefully this will continue in the future as we go into our next period of additional measures. Okay, the recommendations. The Cabinet adopts the Safer Vale Partnership Strategy 2020 and 23, attached to Appendix 1, an action plan, attached to Appendix 2, and that the Safer Vale Partnership Strategy and action plan be referred to the Homes and Safer Communities Scrutiny for consideration. I so move, Leader.
Okay, thank you. I think it's important what you said about the fact that working together, and Appendix 3 is quite good. And the fact that you're right, the antisocial behaviour has gone up slightly, because I know I've had call to talk to Safer Vale in the last 2 days, and to be fair, they've come back immediately and put something into action, which is what we would hope for. So this is for us to adopt the Safer Vale Partnership Strategy from 2020 to 2023, and it also will go to homes and safe communities for their consideration. But hopefully, if they agree to, it will become straightforward. I'm happy to second that. I don't know if anybody else has got any comments in relation to this. I think it's an important strategy, particularly during COVID, because you're absolutely right. We have seen some antisocial behaviour increase in the last several months, and I'm just glad that Safer Vale is there to assist us with it.
Yeah.
Okay, is everybody agreed?
No.
I think
Yeah.
Liz wants to speak.
Liz, do you want to say something? Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't see your hand up. No, sorry.
Thank you, Leader. I think that I just wanted to sort of re-emphasise what both Eddie and you had said about the benefits of this partnership in the sort of last 6 or 7 months, particularly. But the benefits that are achieved by the relationships that are forged within partnerships such as this, we can't quantify. Knowing the people at the other end of the phone, being able to pick up the phone, discuss a particular situation and get fast action and a quick solution to some of the challenges that are faced by our communities. And we can't overstate really the people in them who are inconvenienced sometimes when things happen. So this partnership is absolutely fundamental to us being able to have collaborative action across the whole Vale, and as we actually have done increasingly over the past months. So thank you, and thank you to all officers and organisations involved in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've just shown their mettle really during this crisis. Okay, anybody else got any comments? I can't see any other hands up. So in that case, I will go and thank you, Eddie. Go to the next report, which is the report of the Cabinet Member for Social Care and Health, and that's the retender of the supported living service for people with learning and or physical disabilities. So, Ben, over to you, please.
Thank you, Leader. This is a report in part 1, but also in part 2. So I'll go over the part 1 report now. This report requests permission for a procurement exercise to be undertaken in order to retender the Council's supported living service for people with a learning and or physical disability. The report further requests that permissions to award the contract is delegated to the Director of Social Services in consultation with myself, the Managing Director, Head of Finance, Section 151 Officer, and at the start date of this new contract being 1st October 2021 for an initial period of 5 years, with the option to extend this for a period no more than 5 years. And the recommendation is simply that Cabinet note this report and consider it in connection with the Part 2 report later in the agenda. This is a subject which unfortunately has been slightly delayed by COVID-19. When we do these retendering processes, we want to involve the service users in that conversation, and we want to do a full job on this, which has led to us requesting this time to start and then the extension. And I believe you referred earlier to emergency powers about extending the area that's in place at the moment. So I'd ask for those recommendations to be approved, and then we look to the detail of the contract, as it were, under part 2.
Formally
Okay.
second.
That's formally seconded. Does everybody agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We'll go into part 2 in a second. Any other items that I have urgent under part 1? I don't. So what I intend to do now is to close this meeting. We have the one item which has just been discussed for discussion under part 2 of the agenda, which is report of Cabinet Member for Social Care and Health. As there are matters that are considered commercially sensitive and under part 2, we will need to move into private session where confidential matters can be discussed under part 2. Therefore, myself and the Cabinet Officer will ensure that the recording is closed at this point and will ensure that only relevant parties remain to hear the detail of the items to be discussed. But following the meeting, the outcome of part 2 discussions will be formally captured as part of the minutes of the meeting, advising all parties of the final decision of the Cabinet for this particular item. I just thought I'd clarify the situation for those people who might wonder why we will go into a closed session. So I don't have any other items under part 1. I have this one item under part 2. So I will formally close the meeting at this juncture, and then we will continue under part 2 after closing the meeting down. So can I thank you for your attendance into part 1, and can I ask that the recording be stopped, please?